Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 18th now of July 2020, and it is 10:41 p.m. Getting a little early start, it seems like, for a late night solo show. But hey, what the heck, you know? I got to get some sleep too. So this ending a show at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning is, well, it's fun, you know. Well, I got the time. It's fun, but it does get a little old after a while. So I am endeavoring to start an earlier show tonight. These are unplanned and unscheduled shows. It's weird. It's like I pray, Lord, is there something you want me to talk about? Is there something I need to bring up? And man, there are many times when I don't get anything. You know, it's like, nah, it's okay. You know, you can just one of my hobbies now is searching YouTube for videos that they might take off of there, and then downloading those videos and saving them in several secure places where they just can't disappear. And after my search tonight for a specific title, and getting 404 errors and on the internet, and this video has been removed errors from the YouTube. It's a good thing that I'm doing this. It really is, because truth is knowledge, and they don't want you to have knowledge, and they don't want me to have knowledge. But as long as one of us does, and we can pass it on to the other, it makes us more powerful, right? That's the last thing they want, is for you and I to be powerful. But you know what? Until martial law goes into effect and they throw us into FEMA camps, we're going to be accountable to keep each other informed and empowered. So here's our empowering session for tonight. The thing that I was looking for tonight was an article, and I know that I put it in another show. I did a show probably 6 months ago, maybe longer now, talking about Epstein not being dead, about him haven't been put in witness protection, and I still believe that. And the article I was looking for, it was a very small snippet, and what it talked about, and I really didn't have time, folks, to go into all of my radio shows and listen to it, because believe it or not, there are a lot of them, and I don't have the time to go in and listen to each show to see at what point of that show that I said something about something. And life's too short, especially when you get to my age. So anyway, I'm going to do that part the best from memory that I can. Okay, so it's going to be an ad lib, and it's going to be something that I think I'm recalling correctly. But if I get it wrong, well, I'm sure somebody out there will let me know about it. But anyway, back when Epstein supposedly killed himself, which he didn't, there was a little snippet in there that talked about it. One of the workers at the jail, and that worker said that something weird happened that night, that the power had gone out. We've all been told that, you know, the power had gone out. But when the power had gone out, that a van had backed up to the one of the entrances of the jail, and what looked like paramilitary sort of people got out of it, brought a gurney with them with a body on it, went in a Epstein's cell, left that body there, and Epstein was spirited away. And I still believe, and I'll believe till my dying day, if whatever comes first, whether this revelation comes out to be true or my dying day comes first, I will always think that he is in witness protection and spilling his guts, that he cut a sweetheart deal with the federal government. Okay, so this week, or was it last week? I think it was. His partner in crime, her name is Ghislaine Maxwell. They were once lovers back in the 90s, but not anymore. They had more of a business association than they had anything else. And according to sources, she would procure the girls for Epstein, and Epstein would, well, do what Epstein did. And Epstein was no angel. Okay. Well, no, not one of God's angels. Okay. But what a lot of people don't know is back in the 90s, he was hauled into jail and charged with several things, and people think he got off pretty easy with. He got off, as a matter of fact. He was able to go back to his office during the daytime and work, and people thought he was being treated too liberally, and rightfully so. Um, but I think that it goes all the way back to the 90s. I think that the feds knew what he was into. And they said, okay, we know what you're into, so what we're going to do is here's what you're going to do for us. We have enough to stick you away for the rest of your life, but what you're going to do for us is you're just going to keep business going as usual, but you're going to be taking down names. You're going to be hiding cameras in your suites on your island. You're going to be writing down everything you can. You're going to be keeping plane logs, which he kept meticulous plane logs of the people that flew on his airline. And you're going to keep doing that for us. And at a convenient time, it's all going to go down, and then we're going to pull you into witness protection. We're going to go through all this stuff, and then we're still going to start making arrests. And nobody ever conceived that Donald Trump would become president way back in the 90s, although he had mentioned that there was a possibility back then that he would someday. But there was no firm fact that he was going to be running for president. And everybody else in government was dirty, and they still are. Seems like now it's coming out that maybe John Roberts, the Supreme Court justice, took a ride on one of Epstein's airline flights down to his infamous island and had his way with young girls. But that remains to be seen. And if it does come out and it's proven, then there's another seat that's going to be available on the Supreme Court, and John Roberts is not really one of the most conservative judges that there are. He was an Obama appointee, and, well, that tells you right there, nothing else needs to be said. But anyway, so this week they arrested Ghislaine Maxwell, and they stuck her in the same jail that they supposedly say Epstein was committed suicide. And there was a really neat video that came out, and as a matter of fact, it was on regular TV too. There's a well-known doctor that investigates. He does autopsies, and he's a medical examiner. That's what he is. That's the word I was looking for. And he came out about this whole Epstein thing, and said that there's no way that he hanged himself because his hyoid bone was broken, and his other injuries to him were conducive of being beat up and then hanged, not by himself, but strangled and then with the appearance of being hanged, is what he said. So anyway, that having been said, if you saw the video, if you saw the pictures that were taken of the corpse that was laying there, I think it was still laying on the bed in the not even the infirmary. I think it was in the jail cell. There are some distinct differences. Epstein has a pretty straight nose, and the corpse had a kind of a nose that went down and then was kind of curved down at the end. Definitely not an Epstein nose. The ears were different. The modeling, I think, was probably normal, seeing that he was oxygen deprived for quite a while. Strangulation will do that to you, and somebody chokes you to death. And he mentioned something about the whites of the eyes had I can never remember the name of that word, petechiae in them, which is usually indicative of somebody being strangled to death, as opposed to being hung. Anyway, so supposedly Epstein is gone. Now Hollywood is scared. Okay, Hollywood's. I think if they could find a place where they all could go and run away, they would. If they could, take their fortunes with them and everything else. But you got to realize that A lot of Hollywood is pedophilia, and from the top all the way down. And I think that's one of the reasons Mel Gibson got out of it. And I know that Keanu Reeves got out of it too, because he said that it was basically a Satan worship industry. So anyway, there are some people that get out of it when they see what's going on. There are others that don't know what to do, and then there's the ones that are the perpetrators, so to speak. Now, if you've been following what's been going on, and many probably haven't, there are a number of underground, they call them DUMBs, deep underground military bases. And some of the information that comes out about these, I find it kind of hard to believe, but what do I know? That they go down for 50 or 60 miles, or they're that deep in the Earth's crust, and maybe that's true. Seems to me that it would be pretty hot down there if that was the case, because they're, as you get closer to the center of the Earth, the temperature tends to heat up. If you talk to anybody that's mined for diamonds down in South Africa, or even in a very deep mine, maybe up in the Soviet Union, you find out that you get to a certain point where the heat's unbearable. I'm not saying that there's a molten core down in the center of the Earth, because I do believe in a hollow Earth, but that there is a point where, whether it be friction or whatever, causes a lot of heat down in that area. Scripture says somewhere in Psalms, it says that the dark places of the earth are the habitation of wickedness, which goes to show you that even the Bible knows that there are openings that go into the inner earth and what's down there. So anyway, where's I going with this? So we were talking about Epstein, and we're talking about Maxwell and things like that, and deep underground military bases. And I was watching a video. See if I can. Oh boy, I don't know how the heck I'm going to remember where this was. Oh, maybe right here. There are a couple of videos about this actually, and I gotta wait for this. Okay, here we go. There's one on YouTube called Underground War Happening Now, and it's an update. And it's an update of one that says the underground war is happening now. The other one came out, I think, in 2017, and the other one's pretty recent. I think it's the end of 2019. And if this is to be believed, and I have every reason to believe it, there are probably about 100, if not more, underground military bases that were being used for wicked purposes. I'm talking about child abduction, being used for child trafficking. Some are being shared with, some people would call them aliens. They're actually fallen angels and demonic entities, in experimenting on humans and also consuming humans. That's a whole other subject that we can get into maybe another day. And I should talk to Jim and Eric about that, because it's quite gross, but it's quite real. Trump has been, I think the minute he got in office, he's known about this for quite a while. See, Trump used to hobnob with these people. He never really got friendly with them, but he got to know them enough to what he knew what was going on. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, Trump flew on Epstein's airplane. Well, it doesn't mean that he flew down Epstein's island. For all that we know, he got in there, took a spin for an hour or two, and then came back right where he, started from. But anyway, this whole thing is with the deep underground military bases is quite interesting, and it's a fascinating study to do. And they've explained that there's been a lot of earthquakes in Oklahoma, and they've been blaming it on fracking. Well, another blame that goes and could be quite substantially proven is that that's the military, the good guys going in and cleaning out the swamp that's down in those deep underground military bases. Well, anyway, this video, underground war happening now. He goes into where all these bases are, explains that there's a train, not even a train, like an anti-grav train that goes from one base to another all throughout the United States and up into Canada, and it even goes overseas. And the last time I listened to it, he said that the one that goes overseas has been destroyed. So they were planning on bringing in UN troops that way. A lot of people are, when you bring up the UN troops coming into the United States, well, how are they going to do it? They're not going to bring them in airplanes. They're not going to bring them in ships. They'd be found out. Well, if you hide them underground, they can be here, right? Well, anyway, these guys are going in, these Marines and Special Forces are going in, and they're saving children that have been held down there. Some children have been like third-generation children that have been born down there. They and are used for sexual purposes and for breeding purposes and things like that. And speculation is, and I believe it to be true. Now, remember those two ships? What was it? The Mercy and can't remember the other one, but one went into New York Harbor and one into Los Angeles. And right about the same time, people in Manhattan reported hearing explosions sounding like they were coming from underground. And the same thing in Los Angeles. And all of a sudden, Billy Graham shows up with his Samaritan's, I think it's called Samaritan's Purse, a hospital tent triage center, basically, that basically didn't take any patients in. They might have taken 3 or 4 COVID patients in, but that was it. I mean, we're talking about dozens and dozens of tents lined up in Central Park that stayed there, too, for quite a while. And as soon as as soon as the hospital ships started leaving, like from Manhattan, the tent camps packed up and left. Oh, they don't need us here. We're leaving. And the speculation is that all these children that were and young adults that were saved were brought there and triaged and cared for, and then loaded aboard the ships and then taken away. It's quite interesting that they have a kind of like a map that shows where ships have been, and this one ship was off the coast of Virginia. I think that's usually where it's docked, and after it left dock, it went out to sea, and it did a circular pattern with a Q in it, like almost like we're queuing on, and we're going to go rescue these children. Well, anyway, so these deep underground military bases, perhaps Epstein knew about them. Perhaps he had been there. Perhaps he helped even finance some of them. I don't know. The guy's a billionaire. He can do whatever he wants to with his money. So we had the underground military bases, and we talked about those. And I think that's what we'll talk about when it comes to those, 'cause that's a whole other subject. And as it all plays out, I think if you go and watch that Underground War Happening Now update, watch it with a grain of salt, but the guy's pretty convincing. He really is. Actually, there's one guy that's interviewing another guy. And as a matter of fact, they're going along while talking, and some of the things on the list are not italicized to show that white hats are in charge of them now instead of black hats, white hats being the good guys and the black hats being the bad guys. And that these bases are gradually being cleansed, for lack of better words. He has mentioned that some of them had gone so deep and had been so full of enemies, let's put it that way, that they actually used some small yield nuclear charges in them. And if you look at some of the earthquakes that happened in those areas, it could quite possibly account for low yield nuclear detonations being conducted. And when you think about these, it is kind of dumb to build a dumb base, because if somebody's going to go in there and destroy it, they can do it with a nuclear device. I mean, heck, when I was a kid, they used to explode nuclear devices all the time under the ground in Nevada. Very little fallout escapes, and you don't have to worry about it. And once these things are taken down that way, I'm sure that they are uninhabitable. for generations, if not thousands or hundreds of thousands of years because of the radiation. Um, so anyway, so we talked about Epstein, how he was probably spirited out and is in witness protection right now. And gee whiz. I mean, why? You might say, well, why would they have to do that? Well, if he's got a dirt list on, let's just say let's just say 80% of the Democrats in this country and 40% of the Republicans. I'm talking about senators and congressmen and even presidents. And he's got dirt lists on other world leaders and everything else. You knew he wasn't going to last in prison very long, so you needed to get him out of there as soon as possible. So, but right now we got to be concerned with this Ghislaine Maxwell. I think that probably what happened was evidently she's been traveling from safe house to safe house for a long time, and well, ever since they've been seeking her out. I think it's probably been about 6 or 7, 8 months now, and he finally found her up in one, and he's either Vermont or New Hampshire, and they arrested her. And if she was still in league with Jeffrey Epstein, which I believe she was, then most likely he knew all of her hideout places. So they probably just kept going from one to the other until they finally got her. I have a sneaking suspicion that someday soon, well, you know what, it may not happen because right now she's a very, what I'm trying to say, she's in the spotlight. She's a public figure that's in the spotlight right now. And if she were to die, that it would just be more proof that the forces that be, that the elite, the Illuminati got her. And it would just prove that they exist and that they're out there and that they need to be taken out. So they might leave her alone for a little while anyway. Will there be another thing like what happened with Epstein about him being extracted? Well, possibly. I don't think it'll happen while she's in the jail itself. It'll probably be while she's being transported either to court or somewhere else. It'll be it'll happen sometime, and hopefully it'll be blamed on Hillary because more people have been killed by Hillary than many other sources in this modern day and age. Excuse me while I get a little sip of coffee to wet my throat here. I had to finish it up anyway because it was getting a little cold, and I like my coffee hot or in ice cream form. So I don't like it on ice. Whoever invented that, I don't know. They got a screw loose. If you like it, that's fine and everything, but I have no use for it whatsoever. Okay, so we talked about that. So Ghislaine Maxwell comes from a very well-to-do family. Her father was involved in some kind of intelligence operations over in England for quite a while. I just kind of skimmed over this information, so I might get some of it wrong, but he was also involved in some shady stuff too. So this girl is no stranger to the life of crime, so to speak, or cloak and dagger sort of stuff, shall we say. What she did was wrong. I'm not going to even try to justify, procuring young girls for this guy. That's sick. But if she can help to further the case against some of these higher up politicians, these deep state individuals, so that when it comes time to arrest them, there's absolutely no question whatsoever that these people are evil and wicked and have done these things, then God bless her. Let her be able to live so that she can do that. Pardoning her, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that. but I'm sure that she will be offered some kind of immunity or some kind of reduced sentence, maybe banishment somewhere, her and Epstein, to a place where nobody will know them. And I don't know. I don't know if they still do things like that, like they did to Napoleon and things like that. But anyway, um, it's just really interesting. Now, something happened this week, and it's interesting that it happened this week because it's been 2 weeks after Chris Lane Maxwell was arrested, and this could be very well. First of all, let's add a little levity into this, okay? Because I think this is hilarious. There's a comedian out there. He used to be in the British version of The Office, and yeah, they had the Office way before the Americans had it, and it was pretty funny. I used to like watching it. But they invited him for the fifth time to do the emceeing at the Golden Globe Awards, and he he states several times in there, "This is my fifth and last time, so the heck with it. I'm just letting it all hang out." He shocked the stars at the Golden Globe monologue by joking about Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein while taking aims at Cats. I guess that's a movie that came out, and Leonardo DiCaprio. And we'll read a couple of the things that he said. You guys remember Mia Farrow and Woody Allen? They had a son named Ronan Farrow, and Ronan accused Woody Allen of some really nasty stuff, and mistreating his mother, Mia Farrow. And here's a quote from what he said during the Golden Globes. And I've seen the video several times. Matter of fact, I watch it for amusement because he calls out people and they don't like it. He says, "In this room are some of the most important TV and film executives in the world from all different backgrounds," he said, "but they have one thing in common. They're all terrified of Ronan Farrow. He's coming for you." They pan the audience after he says these things. Then it goes on. Ronan Farrow was responsible for one of a number of exposés into the alleged sexual misconduct of Harvey Weinstein, whose criminal trial is beginning this week. While he failed to name-check the disgraced mogul in his opening speech, he drew gasps with the last-minute quip about him that one person on Twitter called the truth bomb that Hollywood needs to hear. Next, Gervais rallied against movies made for cinema, arguing that everyone's watching Netflix. He then recommended that viewers switch off the Golden Globes instead and watch his Netflix comedy Afterlife. You can binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife, he said. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself after his wife dies of cancer. In his second season, though, so he obviously doesn't kill himself in the end, just like Jeffrey Epstein. So he's affirming that Jeffrey Epstein didn't die, he didn't kill himself. So he's either affirming that he was murdered or that he's in witness protection. But and then he continues on. He says, "I know he's your friend," he added, "but I don't care." This guy, I just want to meet him and shake his hand. And I'd love to ask him to be on the radio show, to tell us everything he knows. But anyway, he said, taking aims at the lengths of The Irishman and Once Upon a Time Hollywood. Gervais joked of the latter. Nearly 3 hours long, Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end, his date was too old for him. Even Prince Andrew's like, "Come on, mate. You're nearly 50, son." Kind of alluding that Leonardo DiCaprio likes underage women or girls, and they panned on him, and DiCaprio kind of laughed, but not as much as he would have if somebody else had been. Okay, so I'm not going to read the next one because it's kind of nasty. The final word of Gervais's dense joke was bleeped out during the show's live broadcast on NBC with cameras cutting it to the shocked expression of Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah, you'd have to watch it. I'm not going to tell you what he said. Finally, Gervais talked about Apple, which is launched into original programming business with the morning show. Gervais then delivered a withering put-down of Hollywood before exiting the stage. He said Apple roared into the TV game with the morning show, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, he said, made by a company whose products are made in sweatshops in China. I love this guy. And he continues, Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agents. So if you do win a war tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? He says, you're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. If you win, come up and accept your little award, thank your agent, your God, and get off. I'm not going to say what he actually said. Let's see. I think that's all. But I'm telling you, I love watching this video because he nails it. He nails them as pedophiles, as narcissistic bastards, and he just it's great. And the fact is that he did it at a public forum, and if anything ever happens to him, as a matter of fact, when he was joking with was it Al Pacino? It was Joe Pesci. He called him Baby Yoda, and he says, "Oh, I'm just kidding, man. Don't have me whacked." So right there, if anything happens to him, I'm sure Joe Pesci would be the first one that would be suspect. But anyway, now that we've had our time of levity, and once you watch that video, you will have a lot time of levity too. I think the video is some 10 minutes long. If so, when you find that one, that's the one, and it's the one that he did. It's just a video of him talking. It's not narrated by anybody. It's not critiqued by anybody. So look for that one on YouTube before they take it down. I have downloaded it for my viewing pleasure. And every time I want to have a laugh, I'm going to watch it. So anyway, a week or two or three after this, Ghislaine Maxwell's arrested. All of a sudden, I read yesterday, French police arrest most wanted darknet pedophile suspect. This guy was a schmuck. This guy was a dreck head. He every bad Yiddish word you can think of, man. This guy. This happened in Bordeaux, and that's kind of like the southern section of France. And you got to understand that the European Union is so lax in their laws when it comes to anybody under the age of 18 being abused. They really don't care. To tell you the truth, it's a big shame that's on the European Union, and hopefully they'll have a revolution over there, and a lot of the countries over there will realize that what they're doing is wrong. Okay, and that they need to stick up for the younger generation that's being abused. So it says Bordeaux. French prosecutors said Monday, July 13th, that police had arrested a man suspecting of operating pedophilia sites on a secret darknet internet networks, providing pornographic videos and pictures to thousands of people worldwide. The 40-year-old arrested, and let me give you a source real quick. It's channelnewsasia.com. But it's an article that was in a French paper. This is just a little more detail. Anyway, the 40-year-old arrested near the southwestern city of Bordeaux on July 7th was described by prosecutors as one of the 10 most wanted targets of authorities fighting child sex crimes around the globe. Bordeaux prosecutor Frédéric Porteret said the suspect also appeared to have taken an active role in the production of child pornography pictures and videos. After being taken into questioning, I wish it would have said he was summarily executed, but After being taken into questioning, he was also charged with the incestuous rape of a minor, as well as incestuous sexual assault of a 15-year-old. Portere said the suspect admitted the charges against him. She added, so he copped to him. French police and investigators from a specialized anti-violence agency worked alongside of EU's Europol police agency. The suspect posted the images on a so-called dark net of websites that can be accessed only with specific software or authorizations ensuring an anonymity for users. And how much do you want to bet that there's people in our Congress, that there's people in the executive branch that are working for Trump that he doesn't know about yet, who have that software on their computer and they watch that crap? You know, as a father and grandfather, I would have no problem just putting a bullet in that guy's head. Sorry, I know that I'm supposed to be a Christian and everything, but you know, this stuff has got to be dealt with severely, because if it's not, it'll just come back twice as bad. And no doubt there's Soros money involved in this too. I can't prove it, but no doubt there is. Let's see. So, but I find it awfully interesting, and it tells me that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein are singing like songbirds to the feds or to Interpol or whatever, because there's a lot of stuff that's going down. There's a lot of people being arrested, and I'm a fisherman, and you know, you don't use large bait for small fish. Okay. You work your way up. Okay. When I was a kid, we had something called a minnow trap, and we used to go down to the Hackensack River in New Jersey, throw the minnow trap out there with some bait in it. We'd pull it up, and you'd have maybe 100 minnows in there. You take the minnows, put them in a bucket, go to your favorite fishing spot, put a hook through them, and then the minnow tries to swim around. A bigger fish eats the minnow. Okay. Well, if you left your line in there long enough with a big enough hook in it, a bigger fish would come and eat the fish that ate the minnow. They move up the food chain, okay? And that's the way that Trump is doing this. He's going after a little guy, and I think what he does is he uses some kind of electronics to where when he goes after people, or when the federal authorities or whatever, the FBI or whatever, when they go after these smaller people, they can't pick up their phone and say, hey, they're coming to get me, or somebody can't call them and say, hey, they're coming to get you. And so they nab these guys. And then, of course, everybody's got a cell phone these days, and they get on there and they start calling numbers or researching where these numbers are and finding out that they belong to bigger fish. So then they arrest the bigger fish, but you don't arrest all of them. Okay. You go after one or two and you make it look like, hey, this is a fluke. We just happened to come across these one or two. You let 3 or 4 of them stay out there, or however many, and you gather intel on them. And when the time is right, you go after them, and then you go after the fish that they're bait for, and then you go after the fish that those bigger fish are bait for until you've got all the fish cleaned out. And that's how you do it. You don't arrest the guy up at the top, because you're going to lose everything. You go from the bottom and you work up. It's in anything. That's basically what you do. In medicine, for instance, or how about working on your car? That's even a better one. I'm trying to think of something, because I used to have a diesel truck. And there's always something that goes wrong on a diesel truck, trust me. If you want a money pit, buy a diesel truck. They're nice, don't get me wrong. They're fun to have. The turbo sounds really cool when you're driving them. But the more stuff that's on something, the more you have to fix and the more it costs. Diesel mechanics are proportionately higher priced than regular mechanics. So let's just say... oh yeah, okay. Here's one thing. I had a Ford F-250 turbo diesel 2006. And what happened was uh, the heater would only work in the defrost. In other words, it would only blow on the windows. And so it could have been like three or four things that could be doing that, right? And everything that I looked at went up in price. Okay. So what I did is I replaced the cheapest thing that I could. I worked on the cheapest thing and that happened to fix it. Okay. Now, had I gone to a mechanic, the mechanic would have had to diagnose it, first of all. And then he probably would have come out and fixed a cheaper thing, but told me that something else needed to be fixed. He would have, double dipped and got me for that. I'm not saying that all mechanics do that. There's some really good, honest mechanics out there, but there's some real schmucks out there too. So, and with medicine, you know, you go in and let's just say the doctor suspects you have an antibacterial or you have a bacterial infection. Okay, so what is he going to do? Is he going to wait 14 days for the culture to come back? No, what he's going to do is he's going to put you on an antibiotic that fights many, many different things. And then and that's going to kind of calm things down, if not take the infection away. And then if it doesn't, by that time the culture is grown in a petri dish, and he knows what antibiotic works for, and he puts you on that. Okay. What is that phrase? Keep it simple, stupid. And work smarter, not harder. That's another good one. But so when you're arresting people like this, you go after the easy marks, the ones that you don't think are going to make that many waves, so to speak. Another good analogy would be, and I know that I'm going to get letters from bass fishermen, but I like to trout fish. Okay, trout are fun to catch. A trout will fight you even after you get them in the boat. A lot of times you got to club them over the head and then put a stringer through their gill and just keep them off the side of the boat. But if you're fishing for bass, a lot of times you'll catch a bass. It'll give you a good fight, but the minute you get it up out of the water, it just kind of curls up and it doesn't want to do anything. Another good example, if you want to eat and not have to work very hard, you fish for a bass. If you want to eat and you like the sport of it, you fish for trout or salmon or something like that. So anyway, in life, when you're going after people like this, you go after the little ones and you gain all the intel that you can, and then you have not only their intel, but you have intel on the bigger guys you're trying to get. And if it's true, and Trump and the Justice Department have upwards of, what was the last time I heard, 172,000 sealed indictments to arrest people, then you got your ducks in a row. You got your information there. When you go stand before a judge with your subpoena and it's opened up finally, and you got this jerk in court, you say, well, Your Honor, here, there's this and this and this and this, and there's no way that, a defense attorney can say, no, that's not admissible or anything like that. No, you get all your ducks in a row so that you can just get them prosecuted and get on with arresting the bigger fish. So anyway, the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell has definitely complicated things, and it's got the upper echelon even more nervous now. I also noticed that right after she was arrested, all of a sudden the cases of COVID started going up. I don't know if you noticed this, but all of a sudden the news. For instance, none of you heard about the French guy getting arrested, right? No, none of you heard about that. You heard about Ghislaine getting arrested because, well, she was wanted, and it has something to do with child pornography. But you don't hear about a lot of things from the press. You don't hear about the 172,000 sealed indictments. You don't hear about Guantanamo being readied for a mass influx of prisoners, because they don't want you to know that. If they knew that Guantanamo was getting ready, they'd want to know why. We're not really at war anymore with ISIS. And every once in a while, we knock out one of their leaders or something like that. But we're not arresting terrorists like we were back in the early 2000s. So if we're fixing up Guantanamo the way they are, and they're fixing it up big time, then people are going to say, well, what are they doing it for? Well, and then people start asking questions. And the government, and not the government, I shouldn't say that. The deep state doesn't like it when people start asking questions. So somebody made an interesting comment the other day, and I thought it was excellent. I'm going to repeat it a lot on different radio shows that I do, and that Jim and I and Eric do and stuff, and Brian too. But they said that COVID will no longer be a problem after November 4th. And I'll bet you that's right. I'll bet you that all of a sudden that's when the cases are going to start getting less and less and less, and it's going to go away. Simply because Trump will be reelected and there's nothing they could do to hurt him. All of this whole COVID thing has been to throw a wrench into work, so to speak. And but what the idiots don't realize is that while they're focusing people's attention on things like this, Trump's been installing new judges in like the Ninth Circuit Court of Schlemiels. It's a right-wing court now. It used to be seriously left-wing and used to be a problem child for getting anything done. And also, that's another thing that happened. The news reported yesterday and the day before that federal police have actually just gone right into Portland now, and they're starting to arrest Antifa members. And oh my goodness, it's the left up here is having a field day with this. Oh, the feds are going in. They don't have permission. Well, yeah, they do. I'm sorry, but they do. The president is supposed to be like the top cop, the top lawgiver, or not lawmaker, but the one that enforces the law. Let's put it that way. And especially where the military is concerned and the National Guard. And he's made several offers to Portland and into Seattle also. Let us come in. We'll get rid of Antifa for you right away. But you see, they don't want that because they like the unrest. The leftist states, California, Washington, Oregon, they love the unrest because it's making Trump look bad, or they think it is, but it's not. It's making them look bad. And there's going to be a big outcry on Election Day in November when a lot of these different states turn red, and a lot of these Democrats that have been ensconced in office for decades are finally thrown out because people are tired of it. I've got relatives and friends down in California, and they're tired of it. Even the liberals in California are tired of it. They see these socialists overextending their bounds, and they want justice, but they want real justice. They don't want the socialist crap that's going on down there. So it's going to be a real shocker on Election Day. It really is. And well, as the time draws closer, it's going to be something to watch. It really is. And I think what we're probably going to do, I don't even know if I'm off that day. I kind of hope I am. Let me see here. Oops, going the wrong way. Oh, yeah, I am, as a matter of fact. I'm off Election Day, so I think my wife and I will just kind of sit back with a bowl of popcorn and kind of watch the festivities, because I think that you thought a lot of people cried when Hillary lost. My goodness, there's going to be a national wailing going on in the big cities anyway, in the little towns and places where people are productive and grow all the food and everything. It's going to be probably November 4th will probably be made into a holiday someday, or Election Day will. So anyway, so I really don't have that much more to say. I just wanted to bring up all this stuff that's going on, especially with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It's going to be interesting to watch the dominoes fall the next few months, and to watch some of these Well, they've got the two of the biggest fish that there are. They've got Maxwell now, and they've got Epstein. And if the word is right out, that's out there is correct, and videos were made of every sex act that was done with every person that visited his island, then some of these people are sunk. And we're talking big people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. And yes, Hillary likes men and women. She prefers women, though. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the governor of our state is on that list, too, to tell you the truth, because she's a sexual deviant, too. And so there are interesting times ahead. I know it looks kind of scary. And the left is trying to put it out there to where there's a close margin between Trump and Biden. They lied during the last election, folks. And Hillary, at least, to her credit, knew what day it was and knew who she was and stuff like that. This guy that's running now doesn't even know what day it is or who he is. What was it? A few weeks ago, he was saying that he was Joe Biden's wife. And but my prediction and what I think is going to happen is they realize Biden can't win. He couldn't win a election for a dog catcher. And they realize that they're going to have to do something drastic and something that's going to be a real newsmaker, and it's going to make all the leftists in this country kind of lift up their spirits and things like that. And it's also going to probably make some of the people that have gone over to the blue side, so to speak. I mean, to the red side. Oh God, forgive me for saying that. It's going to make them want to reevaluate whether they want to stay in the red side or not. And that's going to be Hillary Clinton coming and saying, you know what, I'm here. We love Joe Biden, but we know he can't do it. So I am going to run in place of him. And thank you, Joe, for bowing out. We'll keep you and your family in prayer, which you don't want Hillary doing because she doesn't pray to any kind of good God. Either that or you notice he hasn't picked the running mate yet. It'll get down to the end, and he'll hire her as the vice president. And once he does that, his life expectancy after January 20th, if he were to get elected, he's not going to, but would be probably about 10 days before he came down with some strange disease and died because Hillary would have him whacked. Or she would have him take his own life, or the helicopter taking him to the Air Force One would go down or something. There's nothing beyond what that woman would try to do. That is what was her name? Jezebel in the Old Testament. She makes Jezebel look like a Mennonite wife. Anyway, so that'll be interesting to see what happens in November. Well, actually, it's going to be before then, right? Because I think their primary is coming up really soon. And frankly, I don't even know why they're having primaries because nobody is challenging Trump, and I guess they need one for the Democrats because they need all the help they can get. But so it'll be interesting to see what happens. We need to keep things in prayer, folks. We need to all of the United States where this COVID thing is, and you know my feelings about this COVID thing. I don't think it's a virus. I think it's a mixture. It's probably a hybrid or a lowbrid, if you want to call it that, of and I always forget this word, but it's the disease class that malaria is. And it's a hybrid between that and a bacterial infection. And it was probably made in Wuhan. And all I got to say is that a malarial drug and an antibiotic will work against it, then it's not a virus. That's all there is to it. And the drug companies hate to hear that because they're spending all this money to make a vaccine that they're going to make billions, if not trillions of dollars off of once it gets distributed worldwide. They don't want that to happen. So they're trying to silence anybody and everybody that wants to challenge that this thing is defying the rule of mutation. And the rule of mutation is that when things mutate, they become weaker and less effective. They never become better. That's why evolution is such a crock. I always use the illustration of this dinosaur, this lizard laying an egg, and it's supposed to become a bird, but it's born with one leg and one wing, in the in the front. Well, it's going to get eaten right away, and it's the only one that was born like that. So what's it going to mate with? It's a ludicrous thought. It really is. And so is the thought that that viri can mutate into something more dangerous. Now, something more dangerous can be created in a lab. I don't rule that out. If it is a virus and they do that, then expect something to happen. But one thing that a lot of people write out of this whole equation, and I think we need to remember, is that we have a God that's in control of this. Okay. Yeah, we'd like to give credit to Trump for everything good that happens and blame the Democrats for everything bad that happens. Or if you're a Democrat, you just blame everybody for everything. But we have God on our side, Yod-Heh Vav-Heh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, and He has plans for this country that I frankly don't know what they are. But obviously, if He put in President Trump in office, then He's got some kind of special plans for us, and His will be done. That's all I can say. Well, anyway, oh man, I got to see. Yeah, we've been going for almost an hour now, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Maybe I can get to bed at a decent hour or find some more videos to check out and stuff. But anyway, well, it's been a pleasure being here with you today or tonight. And most of you don't even know I'm doing a show, so you'll download this later on. And I always encourage you when I do a show, even when we do Monday night show, if you're going to live stream it, that's fine. We have a problem with the show, and I don't know where it lies. When we're doing this show, Jim's voice comes across nice and loud, and so does Eric's, but mine doesn't. And I've gone into Windows and tried to adjust everything, each and everything, to get my voice to come up, and somehow it doesn't work. So what I do is I put it into Adobe Audition after I get off the air, and I go in real quick and I make all the levels equal, remove any noise, which doesn't happen when I do a solo show. That only happens when Eric and Jim and Brian are on, and for some reason it's a hissing noise, and I can get rid of it real easy. But anyway, I said that to say this, is that what I do is that after we do a multi-person show, I take that file, hopefully right away the same night, and fix it up, and then I remove the other show from Spreaker, and then upload the new and improved, the fixed show up to Spreaker, and I also put it on Podbean too. So you get a better quality if you just wait till the next day and download a show. Or even, depending on where you are, but a lot of times I don't get done till around midnight, so it'll be 3 o'clock on East Coast, and I don't think this show's special enough to stay up to 3 o'clock to download. So, anyway, you'll get a good show if you download it right away. You might have to adjust the sound levels or whatever to a happy medium, but if you wait till the next day, usually the show is a lot more crisp and clear and free of noise. So there's some noises I can't I can't fix, like when somebody decides to open up a bag of potato chips and their mic's on. Um, those things are unavoidable, and I, try to get that message conveyed. But it's hard. And but anyway, the message that we have for you always gets out to you, and you get it. And more and more people are starting to like opposing the Matrix, and it's really starting to catch on. And please tell your friends. By the way, another thing I did is I reached out to. There's a book online called Bigfoot Sightings in Lynn County, Oregon. I happen to live in Lynn County, Oregon, and I ordered the book and I want to read it, and I want to try to find the author and see if he'll. First of all, I want to read the book. I want to make sure that he's on the up and up and everything like that. But I also placed. They have a couple of groups on Facebook of people that are from a town that's near where I live. That's mentioned a lot, and it's a lot of the Bigfoot reports. And I've sent notice out that I'm looking for an expert that might live in the area, or somebody that's, maybe a group of people that have seen Bigfoot. But the reason I want to talk to them is that I want to hear what they have to say, of course, and I want to hear what their opinion is about what Bigfoot or Sasquatch is. But I want to also be able to get their dates down when they saw these things, and then research and see if there are any UFO sightings at or around that time, because those things are usually associated with one another. And like I said, I think it was last night or the night before when I did the Bigfoot one, that Bigfoot show, that these things seem to be interdimensional. They smell like a lot of times like sulfur, and we know where sulfur comes from. It comes from inside the earth. And also, there have been reports of people that have shot at them and they disappeared and then reappeared like 20 feet away on another, to the left or to the right, which tells me that they're interdimensional, possibly holograms from hell. I don't know. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see if I can get somebody to come on the show to talk about that. I live in a really neat area of Oregon. I love Oregon. I don't like the politics here, but the people here are real sweet, especially people that grew up here. The Californians that have come up here have basically ruined the state. This used to be a very conservative state, and the Californians all moved up here and turned it into the California North, or Hell Hotel, or whatever you want to call it. And I feel for the people of Oregon that were born here and have to put up with all the BS that comes up from California. And I just want to be an emissary to them, to let them know that not everybody that comes from out of state is bad. There are some good Californians that come up here, and there are transplants from New Jersey like myself, who was, kind of forced to live in California for quite a few years, that finally got to be free. And freedom's a beautiful thing, especially when you live in a state like this. Beautiful, clean air, clean water, beautiful mountains. We just have to do 2 or 3 things here and we'd be off the grid, which would be really nice. And, well, the internet, we could never get off but anyway, so looking forward to the opposing matrix becoming a much bigger entity sometime in the future. And when that happens, maybe we could just go 5, 6, 7 days, 6 days a week. I'm not going to work on Shabbat. And just provide different people, different audiences, different guests that'll come on with a variety of different subjects, and that's always been our desire. It really has. And we have a phone number actually for this radio show, and once we figure out how to use it on on Skype, because it's a Skype number, and once we can connect you guys to the show, then we'll be able to have call-ins, which would be really neat. but I'll be real quick to hit the nuke button if you're going to do something bad. So anyway, all those things haven't been said. I'm going to go ahead and cancel, or not cancel, but end the show. I just pray that you guys have a blessed weekend, and what's left of it anyway. Jim and I are going to, and Eric, and I think Brian are all going to be back Monday night, and we're going to be discussing a variety of things. If you just hold on a second, I can tell you what those things are, and that way I won't keep you guessing. Let's see, we're going to be talking about, if you guys love dachshunds, you got to go on to Moon Pie Starbucks. It's got some little kid's voice put to dachshunds. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Okay, let's see. Okay, this Monday on Puzzle Matrix, if you saw the gargoyle thing flying or soaring over around the Vatican, it did not take long to find the further rumor and technology and the technology that created this ruse. So does anyone believe that some kid in their parents' basement spent the time and had the high-tech equipment to make this as a joke, or is this a way to make us not believe the real thing once we see the things that are predicted in the Bible? We're going to be talking about CERN, about the Mandela effect again, where these animal human-like creatures are coming from, like Bigfoot, Mothman, Skinwalkers, Dogmen, lizard men. I'm going to add to that. We're going to be talking about Project Bluebeam, the scriptures, how a secret space program started with the Clinton administration and was put into practical use by President Trump. Anyway, there's going to be quite a few things we're going to be talking about. And anyway, so enough of my malingering on the internet. I'm going to go ahead and hit it. But hey, have a blessed weekend, and we'll see you Monday night. Pacific time, we start at 6:35, and then Eastern time, that would be equivalent to that's 9:35. And if you live in the middle, you do the math. So anyway, God bless you, and thank you for listening to this show. And we love our audience, and we always want you to know that. And we pray for you guys all the time. Okay? So be blessed in Yeshua or Jesus' holy name. Amen.